am Lynn Bridgeford from the HIIT Bios Clinic and HIIT Bios Yoga, and today in our quick and easy series of workouts we're going to be looking at the tummy. So we're going to be doing a high intensity, low intensity strength workout and then a good stretch. So get comfortable, join me in a minute. You may need a belt, you may need something to put on you that's a bit of a weight. If you don't have a weight, don't worry, we'll find a way to work at whatever level works for you. So the muscles we're going to be looking at are the abs, the crunching movement. We've got an upper and a lower part. So we're going to start with the movement. Just check your form first and then we're going to do that fast. So we're contracting, lengthening in the spine, lifting the tailbone forwards, keeping that crunching movement and going at a good pace. It's important to keep a good form. Listen to your bodies. Do what works for you. It's like a good pelvic tilt, standing up. We're going to do some laying down as well. And the low intensity. Check the form you've got. You can bring your hands and feel the contraction in the abs. Doesn't matter if you've got some tummy, the abs are still there, still getting them to work. And going at higher intensity again. Keep the neck relaxed, chest lifting. Get all the work, the knees are bent a little and over the toes so that you get that control and a little bit of bounce and flexibility in the knees to support a good movement in the abs. And taking the lower intensity, recover the heart rate, check what you're doing, check your form. And we're going faster again. Feel yourself getting a little breathless, getting the heart rate up. That's what burns the fat. You want to burn the fat, build the strength and then stretch so we have the flexibility and the pliability in the muscle. And the low intensity, heart rate should slow down. Breathing becomes a little easier and you can be more focused on what you're doing with the movement. We're going to use our hands for the strength portion, so bringing your hands on the top of the hip bones, so not these hip bones, the pelvic bones, bend the knees, and we're going to give a little resistance back as we push. So we're doing that same movement. It's focused and pressing, lengthening in the back and the tailbone. We're also working the arms because we're getting that push back, using an isometric, taking it at an easy focused pace. We're pushing and releasing, pushing and releasing, pushing and releasing, and pushing and releasing. Keeping the legs straight, lengthening in the front of the groin and lifting the chest to lift through those abs. At the same time we're lengthening the tailbone down so we're getting a stretch through the abs. Keep the legs strong. Breathe into it and release. We can also do that on our knees, lifting up and bringing the pelvis forwards. If you're okay on your knees, getting that stretch through the abs. Keep the head up, only drop it back if it's comfortable. If you can take a full camel, you can take the hands onto the heels. It doesn't matter how far you go or whether the head is up or down. We're getting that stretch through the abdominals, lifting the chest. We can bring the hands behind the head, knees bent or straight. Lift the upper chest to get that stretch, and we've got the tailbone coming down so we've engaged the lower abs and the core to get that stretch through the abs. Relax a moment, make sure that your neck's okay with it. Have a go with the knees bent, find which works for you. Straight legs may be a little bit more stable. And breathe into it. A little bit like doing a standing cat-cow. So bend the knees, lift the tailbone, lift the chest, lift the head. Breathe into it. If you need a rest, just release back again And then lengthen, lift the tailbone back, lift the chest, lift the head. Breathe into it, all these muscles move as we breathe. And come back up on the inhale. So the transverse abdominals, big muscles that come all the way up and out to the sides. It's that same movement on an angle, so we turn to face over the leg and we're doing that same contraction. You can feel with your hands. Get the form first, and then we're going to do this at a pace where you still feel you have control. You may not be able to go as fast as you did on the first one. You may. The speed is really to get the heart rate up and to do the hits of the high intensity and then the lower. It needs to be high enough to get the heart rate up and the breath going, and yet still to be able to keep that control. And then taking the lower intensity, same movement. Low intensity interval, and we're going higher again. So you can feel with the hands where the transverse abdominals are contracting. As you lean forwards, we're doing that little tailbone coming forwards. So it's a crunch. You won't go as far as when you were straight. Get that pace. And then lower interval, less intensity, catch the breath. On the other side, so leaning, twisting over the leg and tailbone in, just get the form first. And then we're going at the high intensity. You can feel the muscle working under your hands. Even if you don't have much tummy, it'll still crease up because of the movement we're doing. Think about the work going on in those abdominals, and that helps to burn the fat that's in and around them. Keep that pace going, and then taking the lower intensity. The knees are bent to just keep a little bit of plasticity in the movement, and going at high intensity again. Feel the movement under your hands if you just bring your fingers up a little bit. Tailbone tucking under, crunching. You might even get a little bit of burn in the muscle while you're doing it. And taking the lower intensity. Checking the form. So to do the strength, similarly bringing hands against the pelvic bone on the front, and we're going to push and come down. So bringing the upper body down, pushing against the pelvic bone and twisting over it. If we use one hand, we can feel the work, and we can make things feel heavier than they are just by focus and speed or intensity. So feel that working in the abdominals and release, using the hands to press and curl around. Working in the transverse, it's like we just bring the tailbone forwards, bring the pelvis forwards and twist over it, pushing against the hand. And release, and once more. Push, 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 push with strengthening. If we push for too long, the muscles get tired. So we need to rest in between. On the other side, bend the knees, bring the hand onto the pelvis, and we're going to tuck the tailbone under, bring the body forwards over that leg, so pressing against the pelvic at the front, and release. So you'll feel this transverse working. Push, 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 and release. And again, curl around and over. Push, 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 and release. And again, pushing against the pelvic bone, pressing with the pelvis against the hand and pushing with the hand against the pelvis, and release. So we stretch in a similar way, but we're turning over one leg and lifting up and away. So lifting up, lengthen, lengthen all the way through the transverse. You should feel the attachment down onto the pelvis. Keep the neck in neutral, so avoiding any strain. And relax so you keep the better position. And then lift up again the other side. Might not be quite happy with staying there long, so make sure your body's happy. And turning over the leg, lift up and lean. Get that stretch through the transverse abs. Keep the neck in neutral. And release to give a little relax. And lift up and over again. A lot of dance, classical dance and ballroom use this sort of movement. And release. We can do that on the knees. Turn over one knee, bring the pelvis forwards and lift up and back. There should be a release in the back and stretching through the transverse abdominals, keeping the neck in neutral. If this doesn't work for you, do the one we did before. And on the other side, turn to face over the leg, lengthening the tailbone, lift up and back, so we're stretching through those transverse abdominals. So it's the opposite of the movement we did, which was coming down and forwards. We're going up and back. Come up for a little rest, set it again, turn over the leg, lift and lean back, stretching through the transverse abdominals and come back up. We can do this laying on the floor for a bit of extra stability. The lower part is going to be curling and crunching and bringing the tailbone up. The upper part is going to be reaching up with the arms. So we're going to bring the two together and we're going to lift the tailbone and come up. So we're going to do that at a speed that works for you. Another way to do it, if it's easier on your neck, is to bring the hands behind the head. It may feel a little bit more supported for the speed part, the high intensity. Feel that working. And then taking the lower intensity. You can also leave the hands behind the head here if you like. And going high intensity again. It won't look like you're moving much because you're doing the upper and the lower together. It's also possible to separate them out. We're just looking for the best hit. And slowing down. Catch your breath. Bring the hands onto the front of the pelvic bones and we're going to press up and release. So we're doing a strength, pushing up and release. So we've got a curling up in the tailbone and a push, and it eventually lifts up off the floor and relax down. And again, push the hands in, curl up, lift up and release. And again, curl up, push, push, push and release. Going on all fours to stretch out with the cat-cow. So hands under the shoulders, butt above the knees, nice straight spine. We're going to lift through the tailbone, lift through the chest and lift through the head. So we've got a nice stretch on the abdominals. To release from that, curl around the tailbone, curl the chest and curl the head down. And again, lift the tailbone, lengthening the spine, lift the chest, feel the stretch in the abdominals. We're going to stay there for a few breaths. So we've got length in the back, we're not crunching the back, we've got length and lifting the tailbone and lifting the chest. And release, curl around the tailbone, curl around the chest, curl around the head. And again, lift the tailbone, lift the chest, lift the head. Breathe into it. And release. So to get the transverse laying down, we're going to bring one hand behind the head and the other knee is coming up to meet the elbow. So coming up and going at high intensity. Make sure your neck's okay. You should be able to support it well with your hand and find the speed that works. If you need to slow down, that's fine. And taking the lower intensity, make sure that there's relaxation in other parts of the body. particularly take care of the neck. I'm going at speed again. And the lower intensity. And on the other side, bringing the hand behind the head and bringing the knee up to meet the elbow, working the transverse. Keep the neck supported. If there's any tension in your neck, then slow down a little. Find the pace that works for you to get that heart rate up and start burning the fat. And then taking the lower intensity, get the heart rate recovering, breathe more easily, and going at speed again. High intensity. Keep it going. You can always slow down in the high intensity if you need to. And take the lower intensity. So to do the strength resistance, we're going to bring the hand onto the knee and we're going to push the knee towards the shoulder and the opposite way. And relax. So we're pushing the knee up towards the opposite shoulder, working those transverse abdominals. And release, and again push, 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 push. Feel the strength and release. And again push and release, and once more push into that and release. On the other side, bring the opposite hand onto the knee. We're going to be pushing towards that shoulder. So of course we're working the arms as well, which will bring in part of the upper abs. Push towards the shoulder, resist with a hand and release. You can bring the other hand to feel the work in the transverse abs and release. And again push, 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 push and release. All the work is going into the abs, and of course the arm and the leg are working too. Push, 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 push and release. So to stretch the transverse abs, we're going to bring one hand behind to lift. We're going to press forwards and we lift up, getting that stretch through the transverse abs. Make sure your neck's in neutral. Come up for a rest and lengthen and lift, keeping the shoulder down, bringing the pelvis forwards and release, and once more stretching through the transverse abs and release. And on the other side, bring the hand on the top of the pelvis at the back. We're going to bring it forwards and stretch back. So we're lifting up and away and gently pushing against the pelvis. Relax to recover your position. Lift up and stretch and release. And once more, lift up, stretch to the transverse abs. Keep the neck okay and release. Have a good wiggle, shake everything out, wag like a dog, let any tension go and let anything just release through your body to the floor. That's just a few quick and easy exercises for HIIT strength and stretching for the abdominal muscles. So enjoy having a good abdominal strength, because that will help support your back and help you with lifting and many different aspects and tasks in life. Thank you so much. Please subscribe, like, write in the comments below, and go across to my other channels. I have Instagram, Lynn Bridgeford. I have Facebook channels for the clinic, for the yoga, and interact with me on all the channels, and I would be happy to connect with you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you so much.